This book that we're here to discuss this evening, The People Reloaded, The Green Movement, and the Struggle for Iran's Future, which I had the privilege of co-editing with my dear friend Nader Hashemi, whom we'll be hearing from tonight. This book opens with a poem by the great Persian poet Hafez. That poem is titled, "Those Who Stood Up for Tolerance," and I think it resonates not only vis-a-vis the Green Movement in Iran, but the events of the last 2 weeks in Tunisia and Egypt. May days of love's reunions be remembered. May those days be remembered. May they always be remembered. My mouth is poisoned by the bitterness of grief. May the toasts of those happy drinkers be remembered. Although my comrades are free from remembering me, I remember them all constantly. Though I'm captured and bound by this misery, may the attempts of those who stood up for tolerance be remembered. Even though 100 rivers constantly flow from my eyes, Zayan Derud irrigates for those who make gardens. May it be remembered. From now on, the secret of Hafez will remain unspoken. Have pity on those who must keep secrets. May that be remembered. This book is an anthology, and our panel this evening reflects the multiplicity of voices, perspectives, and geographic locations of the authors who compiled and comprised this text. We included authors from all over the world, principally in Iran and the Iranian diaspora, but also outside those boundaries. Some of the names would be familiar to you if you read about Iran. The contributors include Ervand Abrahamian, Nasreen Alavi, Ali Ansari, Saeed Arjomand, Reza Aslan, Roger Cohen, Juan Cole, a name I'm sure everyone in this room is familiar with, Hamid Dabashi, Christopher de Beleg, Shirin Ebadi, Michael Fisher, Mohsen Kadivar, Stephen Kinzer, Charles Kurtzman, Ziba Mir Hosseini, Abdullah Momeni, Karim Sajadpour, Muhammad Sahimi, Fatemeh Shams, Gary Sick, Abdul Karim Sarouche, Robin Wright, and Slavoj Žižek, as well as the esteemed scholars gathered here this evening, whom I'll introduce in a moment. But sadly, there are 2 contributors to this book who are no longer with us on this earth. And so I'd like to dedicate tonight's event to those 2 individuals who didn't make it to see the publication of this book, yet whose words fill its pages. That would be Fred Halliday and the late Grand Ayatollah Montazeri, whom Ahmad Sadri will be discussing shortly. I'll just say a couple of words about Fred Halliday, who was a personal friend of mine. Fred taught international relations at the London School of Economics for 25 years. His book, Iran, Dictatorship and Development, published in late 1978, interestingly enough, is widely regarded as a classic in the field. But Fred also authored a wide range of publications, including The Ethiopian Revolution, published in 1981, Rethinking International Relations, 1994, Islam and the Myth of Confrontation, 1996, Revolution and World Politics, appropriately enough, 1999. The Middle East and International Relations, published in 2005, and one of my personal favorite books of Fred's, 100 Myths About the Middle East, also published in 2005. Fred Halliday died in Barcelona on April 26th. His contribution to The People Reloaded is an essay titled Iran's Tide of History, Counter-Revolution and After. It was the last thing Fred would ever write about Iran, a subject very dear to his heart. Nader and I are pleased to give that essay a second lease on life by publishing it in this book. Why did Nader and I choose to title this book The People Reloaded, you might wonder. In September of 2009, Nader and I came upon an essay in a somewhat obscure British magazine that some of you may know called Red Pepper, bearing the evocative title, The People Reloaded. The piece was co-authored by two people we'd never heard of, Morad Farhadpour and Omid Mergan, who were simply identified as translators and writers based in Tehran. Nader and I were struck immediately by the piece, by its razor-sharp political edge. It was, in fact, directed at confused British leftists who viewed Ahmadinejad as some kind of anti-imperialist hero. But it also had a rich theoretical range. It wasn't purely polemical. Together, Omid and Morad had co-translated Adorno and Horkheimer's Dialectic of Enlightenment into Persian. And the piece also conveyed a profoundly compelling sense of urgency and immediacy, a sense that was sadly confirmed on February 3rd of 2010, when Omid Mergan was arrested in Tehran and taken to an undisclosed location. He was released later that month. But due to these circumstances, all of our dealings with both Omid and Morad about reprinting their essay in this book have been conducted indirectly via a mutual friend in Europe. Nader and I were thrilled to learn that Omid and Morad were very happy to have their essay appear in the book, and even happier that we chose their essay's title for the book itself. I encourage you to read the book. It's frankly worth the price of the book just for that essay alone, but also for the contributions of our panelists this evening. And let me introduce them. Asef Bayat teaches sociology and Middle East studies at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. Before moving to Urbana, he taught sociology for 17 years at the American University in Cairo. And after that, at Leiden University in the Netherlands, where he also directed the International Institute for the Study of Islam in the Modern World. Asef's books include Workers and Revolution in Iran, published in 1987, Street Politics, Poor People's Movements in Iran, published in 1997, Making Islam Democratic, Social Movements and the Post-Islamist Turn. If you Google the term post-Islamist, post-Islamism, you'll find that this is a term that Asef has coined and put into circulation, which has now caught on in many circles. In 2010, just in the last few months, Asef has published 2 books, and check out their titles: Life as Politics, How Ordinary People Change the Middle East, and Being Young and Muslim, New Cultural Politics in the Global South and North. You couldn't invent, if you were a scriptwriter, you really could not create someone as perfectly suited to address the current drama unfolding in the world today as Asef Bayat, with his expertise on Iran, Egypt, the Islamic world more generally, and the sociology of social movements and youth protest. Some of you may have seen Asef's illuminating article, A New Arab Street in Post-Islamist Times, published earlier this week on the website of Foreign Policy magazine. The title of his essay in The People Reloaded is the felicitous A Wave for Life and Liberty, the Green Movement and Iran's Incomplete Revolution. Norma Maruzzi teaches political science and gender and women's studies here at UIC, where she's also director of the International Studies program. She's the author of the book Speaking Through the Mask, Hannah Arendt and the politics of social identity. Some might argue that this is just as interesting a time to be a Hannah Arendt scholar, given what's going on in the world. She's also the author of a forthcoming book about women in Iran. Kaveh Ehsani teaches international studies at DePaul. He's a member of the editorial committee of Middle East Report and serves on the editorial board of the Tehran-based journal Goftogu, meaning dialogue. Norma and Kaveh co-authored, along with Arang Keshevarzian, the essay Slaps in the Face of Reason, Tehran, June 2009, which appears in The People Reloaded. Ahmad Sadri teaches sociology and is director of Islamic World Studies at Lake Forest College. He's the author of Max Weber's Sociology of Intellectuals, published in 1994, and he's the co-editor with his twin brother Mahmoud Sadri of the book Reason, Freedom, and Democracy in Islam, Essential Writings of Abdul Karim Soroush, published in 2000. Ahmad and Mahmoud have a chapter in The People Reloaded titled Delegitimizing the Islamic Republic of Iran with a Fatwa, the significance of Ayatollah Montazeri's post-election legal ruling of July 2009, which includes their translation of that fatwa and also an introduction contextualizing it. And last but not least, my co-editor, collaborator, co-conspirator, and comrade, Nader Hashemi, who teaches Middle East and Islamic politics at the University of Denver. He is the author of the book Islam, Secularism, and Liberal Democracy, Toward a Democratic Theory for Muslim Societies, published in 2009, of The People Reloaded. Perhaps you caught him the other night on the PBS NewsHour, which some of us, for generational reasons, can't stop calling McNeil-Lehrer, discussing the upheaval in Egypt. Like Asef Bayat, Nader is a comparative social scientist who studies both Iran and the Arab Middle East and the Islamic world more generally. Nader's chapter, he's both the co-editor but also the author of a major chapter in The People Reloaded, and that chapter is titled Strategies of Hope, Edward Said, the Green Movement, and the Struggle for Democracy in Iran. Perhaps Nader can share some of his thoughts with us tonight, not only on Edward Said and the Green Movement in Iran, but on Edward Said and the upheavals in Tunisia and Egypt and beyond. So in order of their speaking, we're going to hear first from Nader Hashemi, and then from Asef Bayat, then Norma Maruzzi, Kaveh Ehsani, and our cleanup hitter, Ahmad Sadri. Nader Hashemi.